Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered why, despite all that you give, your relationships don't work out as you expect? Why do you always end up feeling empty, confused, even hurt? Even when you started with the best intentions? Maybe you were taught that loving means sacrificing yourself, that the one who endures the most loves the most, that love is giving everything, even at the cost of yourself. But what if I told you that this is not love? At least, not healthy love. Carl Jung said that what you deny submits to you, and what you accept transforms you. And many times, what we call love is actually an unhealed wound that expresses itself through our choices. Self-love is not a motivational phrase. It is not a social media trend. It is one of the deepest psychological and spiritual practices that exist. And its absence not only disconnects you from yourself, but also contaminates each of your relationships. Because when you don't choose yourself, you choose poorly. And when you don't take care of yourself, you allow too much. The beginning, a search from the outside in. Since we were little, we learned that love comes from outside, that mom and dad should love us, that our friends should accept us, that a partner should complete us. We grow up believing that someone else has to give us what we lack. And so we begin an eternal search for love in the wrong places. But Jung invites us to look in another direction. For him, the true journey of the human being is towards individuation. That is the process of becoming a complete individual who has integrated all their parts, their light, their shadow, their history, their desires, and their contradictions. That process does not happen outside. It is not achieved in another. It is a journey towards oneself. And do you know what the problem is? That many people try to love without having found themselves. They try to care without having healed. They try to build without having torn down their own internal walls. And that is why their relationships become a repetition of unconscious patterns that lead them, time and again, to the same point of pain. The shadow, the part of you that chooses for you. One of the most powerful ideas that Jung gave us is the concept of the shadow, everything we do not recognize in ourselves, but that continues to silently influence our decisions, attitudes, and relationships. Our shadow contains aspects that we have repressed, denied, or judged, from insecurity to anger, from the fear of abandonment to the need for control. What is striking is that when you do not work with your shadow, it chooses for you. It pushes you towards relationships that reflect your unhealed wounds. It makes you pursue people who activate your oldest traumas. And although you experience it as a love at first sight or an irresistible attraction, it is actually your unconscious trying to resolve something unresolved. When you do not know yourself deeply, you idealize. You project onto the other qualities that you have forgotten you possess. You fall in love with their confidence because you do not see your own. You are fascinated by their sensitivity because you have blocked yours. You become obsessed with their validation because you do not know how to validate yourself. And then the cycle occurs. You cling, you lose yourself, you get disappointed, and you start over. Not because love is the problem, but because you keep arriving broken in places where you should arrive whole. Self-love is not ego, it is responsibility. We live in a culture that has distorted the concept of self-love. It has turned it into a superficial caricature where everything is reduced to pampering oneself, buying things, or repeating nice phrases in front of the mirror. And while those gestures can be valuable, real self-love is much deeper and much more uncomfortable. Loving oneself means facing oneself, looking directly at your childhood wounds, recognizing your repetitive patterns, accepting that many times it was you who abandoned yourself, not others. It means stopping the search for blame and starting to take responsibility for your part. Not from guilt, but from power. Loving yourself is setting boundaries, even when that makes you lose affection. It is prioritizing your well-being above your fear of rejection. It is stopping the chase after those who do not stop for you. It is deciding that your peace is worth more than your attachment. And when you start doing that, everything changes, because you stop living in a state of lack. You no longer need others to love you to feel valuable. You already know it. You no longer despair if someone leaves. You stay with yourself. And that internal security completely transforms the type of relationships you attract, tolerate, and choose. The link from the wound. We have all had relationships where we felt that we loved too much, where we gave everything, where we emptied ourselves, where we tried, insisted, endured, until we broke. But what we often call love is just a wound trying to be seen. A person who does not love themselves desperately seeks someone else to do it. They confuse attention with love. They confuse intensity with connection. They confuse drama with passion. And what is created is not a bond, but a dependency. Jung invites us to observe that need with compassion, but also with clarity. He reminds us that until we recognize our wounds, we will continue to repeat them, because we attract what we believe we deserve. And if you do not value yourself, you will attract those who confirm your devaluation. That is why the first step towards a healthy relationship is not to find the right one. It is to find yourself. It is to give yourself what you have always sought outside. It is to become your refuge, your support, your most faithful embrace. Self-love as inner revolution. Loving you does not make you selfish. It makes you free. Free to say no. Free to stop justifying the unjustifiable. Free to not settle. Free to build connections where you can be yourself without masks, without fear, without anguish. And that doesn't mean you won't have conflicts. Every relationship has them. But now you will approach them from a different place. No longer from the fear of losing, but from the desire to build. No longer from demands, but from communication. No longer from the need for the other to fix you, but from shared responsibility. Self-love gives you discernment. It helps you see clearly. It allows you to let go peacefully of what once destroyed you with anxiety. And above all, it teaches you that you also deserve to be loved with tenderness, respect, and depth. Love from choice, not from urgency. Imagine for a moment that you manage to integrate your parts, that you recognize yourself, accept yourself, heal yourself. How would your relationships be if you no longer came from a place of lack, but from a place of wholeness? You would be more selective, not because you think you are superior, but because you are no longer willing to accept anything. You would be more honest. You would not tolerate games, manipulations, or half-hearted loves. You would be willing to build, not to beg, to choose, not to plead. And from there, you could love freely. With commitment, yes, but not at the sacrifice of your dignity. With vulnerability, yes, but not at the expense of your boundaries. With passion, yes, but not with addiction. That is real transformation. It is not about becoming a cold or overly self-sufficient person. It is about being so connected to yourself that you no longer need to lose yourself in another to feel alive. The pain as a teacher. There is no self-love without pain, because it involves giving up the illusion that someone else will come to save you. It involves mourning your romantic fantasies. It involves crying for all the times you betrayed yourself. It involves seeing yourself with all your humanity, without filters, without excuses. But that pain is not an enemy. It is a teacher. It shows you what you need to look at. It forces you to return home, to yourself. And from there, you can begin to build a more authentic life and relationships. Jung said that the soul needs conflicts to evolve, that suffering, if faced with awareness, transforms into wisdom. So do not run away from your pain. Listen to it. It has something to tell you. It has a key to give you. The most important relationship of your life. There is a relationship that never ends. One that accompanies you from the moment you are born until you die. One that, if it is not right, contaminates all the others. And that is the relationship with yourself. How do you talk to yourself? How do you treat yourself? How do you support yourself when everything goes wrong? Your internal dialogue shapes your reality. If inside you there is judgment, harshness, abandonment, that will be reflected in your connections. But if inside you there is compassion, patience, and love, you will also see that reflected. It is not about becoming perfect. It is about becoming real, accepting that you are a being in process, giving yourself permission to grow, to make mistakes, to start over. Because that love, the one you have for yourself, is the only love that no one can take away from you. And it is what defines how and how much you allow others to love you. An invitation. Today, I want to invite you to something radical. Start with yourself. Stop looking outside for what you can only build inside. Stop blaming others for your emptiness, and take responsibility for your story, not to burden it with guilt, but to free yourself from the truth. Loving yourself is an act of courage. It is the beginning of all your transformations. And it is, without a doubt, the seed of healthier, more conscious, and more lasting relationships. So close your eyes, take a deep breath, and repeat to yourself, I choose to know myself. I choose to heal myself. I choose to love myself. And from there, I choose who accompanies me. Because only when you choose yourself can you choose others well. Thank you for being here at Jung and You Psychology for Change, for giving yourself this space and for allowing yourself to understand, grow, and be. If this content has resonated with you, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and share it if you think it can help someone in need, because here we continue exploring together what transforms us. See you in the next video. Until then, take care.